this is fun for me. I've got a couple of things going on. I have upgraded my Zoom account to be able to do webinars. Webinars are a little bit different than meetings because you get a little bit more control over, people jumping in, vocalizing. They can do a hand up kind of thing. And so, like, if we look here and we see participants, it's just me. I don't have any attendees scheduled for this because realistically, I am just trying out this webinar function. And I thought it'd be a great idea while I'm trying this webinar function to add some value to the hybrid speaker coach trainer network. And, we can see it says lower all hands. That's because if there were attendees, you'd be able to raise your hand and you'd be able to kind of jump in. I've got this recording. And so while I am live on the Hybrid Speaker Coach Trainer Network on Facebook, this is undoubtedly something that I will link through to the LinkedIn side for the Hybrid Speaker Coach Trainer Network on LinkedIn as well. The particular branding I put behind me on this one is the Mañana No Mas branding, because this is very much a Mañana No Mas subject. So as the example, I will be using the what I'm calling the Power Sport Roundtable as the example of how to build and promote one of these roundtable webinar type events. Now, let me just give you some background here. It is, it's 10:59. The actual webinar time is 11 o'clock. And so as we get closer and closer to that actual webinar kickoff time, let me do a little housekeeping to tell you where this is coming from, what the ideas are, and how I am kind of moving this whole initiative forward. So I have a project. One of the Mañana No Mas projects is called the Power Sport Academy. The Power Sport Academy leverages my experience, my expertise as a service professional in the power sports industry to help power sports dealerships grow their service business. Right. So that's a niche of a niche, man. That is talk about driving down your niche, right, and funneling it in. I have done that most expressly with the Power Sport Academy. And the reason that I bring that up is because within the power sports realm, there are other forms of expertise, right? So there's sales experts, there's BDC experts, there are, all kinds of things that you can focus in on within that industry to be an expert on. And it occurred to me, I said, here's the deal. I'm not going to say struggling, but I have not reached the audience that I intended to reach with the Power Sport Academy. Just haven't. A lot of sales, a lot of dealership owners are more sales focused. They're more like, hey, I got to move units. I got to make more sales. I'm tracking my sales. And then they look at service as almost like, they'll say it, right? So I guess me repeating it's not bad, but they'll say, oh, it's a necessary evil, right? If I could have a motorcycle dealership without having to have a service department, I would do it in a heartbeat. And you'll hear dealers say that over and over again, which has always confused me, because honestly, if you look at like automotive dealers, for example, an automotive dealership has a thing called, a saturation number. And that's like how much money the service department makes and what percentage of profit from that department covers the expenses of the whole business, right? And then everything else is just icing on the cake. And when you explain that to a power sports dealer owner, pardon me, a lot of them will argue. They'll say, "Oh, no, I don't make any money out of service. It's such a pain in the rear end. There's overhead, there's management, there's HR expenses, there's training expenses, there's special tools, there's square footage, there's equipment, and all these things stack up, and it seems like so much to manage. It seems like you couldn't possibly make money after all of that, but in fact, you do. Uh, if you run it correctly, you do. I have one dealership in perspective. It's one of the ones that really jumps off the page to me. But in the last 2 months, we've come up with about $250,000 in additional revenue for that department for the upcoming 2021 year. And so when I say, man, like, let's just drive the numbers on this and see where you're going to be next year, and you help them forecast an actual forecast of, let's use these numbers. Let's use a couple of changes in your processes, and let's see what those changes will generate for you moving forward. And you go, that's $250,000 next year. When you blow that out and you show them step by step how each little thing adds up, and through efficiency and productivity, you can get that number. that's so rewarding because it's $250,000. It's not $250,000 to a business the size of Google. It's $250,000 to the size business of like your local bakery. You know what I mean? That's huge. That's huge money when you start looking at the difference you can make in those types of people. So we put this Power Sport Roundtable together. And as a background to what this webinar is about, it is how do I host a 5-hour webinar with five experts in their niches, right, pouring into this, and how do I promote this webinar, and how do I get people to attend, and then what do I do with the information from that attending. And so there's a lot that goes into that, and there's a lot of thought that goes into that. But I'll tell you that once you build a certain amount of confidence in this area, it becomes part of your workflow. It becomes part of what makes you, what you can do, and when I take a look at someone, let's say I put it together. First, I get, hey, are there 5 experts that want to work with me in a webinar type area, right? Are there 5 experts that want to do that? And so I say, yes. Okay, so I find my 5 experts. And then I say, would you be willing to talk for 35 to 45 minutes, on this subject? Yes. Okay, this is the order we're going to put the subjects in. It adds the most value to the dealers. Boom. Okay, now we got to get dealers to attend, right? So then I start the webinar funnel. The webinar funnel puts a form on a website, right, that allows people to register and then adds them to my mail list. Perfect, right? So now I've got dealer owners adding themselves to my mail list. Now I can send out newsletters and reminders and stuff like that. Boom, okay? We've got that. Then the thing sends reminders out for the webinar. Boom, the webinar is scheduled on Zoom. Boom, right? And then we share that information with other experts that are on the panel. Boom, right? So everyone's getting their value in this thing, right? So they're growing their mail list just like I'm growing my mail list by participating in this deal. And the dealers are getting value because of the free information we're giving out in the webinar, right? And so as a digital marketer, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you are on the other side of this webinar going, Kurt, you're talking in things that don't make sense to me, right? If you're a hybrid speaker coach trainer and you are in my group, or you're viewing this as someone referred you to see this from my group, you're thinking to yourself, man, I don't want to, this is so difficult, or this is so involved, or I just want to give my message, right? Well, remember, when you want to give your message, who are you giving your message to? Who's your audience? How are you going to grow your community so that you have someone to keep giving your messages to? Right? And these are great questions right now, especially during COVID and this onslaught of everybody wants to be a training expert, right? And so, I'm somewhat affiliated with Lifter LMS. I do some customer service work for them, and we can see an uptick in people, wanting to set up their online academies, and that's great. That's awesome. But if you're a speaker coach trainer and you're used to doing live events, how are you going to build a community that you can share your ideas, concepts, and messages with? And how are you going to build your reputation and establish yourself for when the world opens back up again for these live events? California is in a whole new shutdown level all over again. In fact, the lockdown has gotten so ridiculous that now it's just kind of a standing joke with people in the neighborhood of like, are we under lockdown or not? What are you doing? I don't know. If I just don't watch the news, I don't have to worry about it. But as much as that is the atmosphere where I'm at, I'm talking to people all over the nation, and quite honestly, all over the globe, that are dealing with different restrictions on their live events. And so what are you going to do to stick a pin in your own content? So look at me, I'm making the camera go crazy. But stick a pin in your own events, make yourself the expert. How are you going to do this? And I think webinars are a great way to bring people into a fold, into a community, and then help grow that community. So let me just take you right into, let's just do a screen share right off the bat here. And let's go into, not there. Well, I just set up the Facebook, so it'll dump you into the Facebook screen, right? But let's go into the Power Sport Roundtable. So you guys can actually see what we did. We took the 5 experts, right? And I built a specific page that niched down for what we're doing. So this is the powersportroundtable.com. I went ahead and got that URL, and then I jumped into WordPress and I made a website that was visual, that made sense. I went and had a logo made, right? There are plenty of sources to have logos made. I use BrandCrowd. I find that's one of the easiest ways to make logos, and it's rather inexpensive for me personally. So I went to brandcrowd.com. I went ahead and had the Powersport Roundtable logo made. Powersport Roundtable, support the sport. And I got a couple of different things going on. I made a promotional video that talks about the benefits of coming to the roundtable. This takes you to the same video, but on YouTube. This takes you to the registration page, which starts the webinar funnel. These are the different groups that we have involved in the event. It says feature packed all day for you, expert speakers, actionable content, tools for success. We bring it all together. We have people that are working and bringing the different messages together. We're going to value people's time and give them things to do. And then, of course, expanding. Our experts have taken a leap to combine their marketing efforts to reach you. And so we will be reaching back out to people that participate in the roundtable and do that. We talk about engaging the people. Grab your seat now, right? Here's your call to action, right? And after the call to action, it says register here. So I've got multiple places to get you to a registration. Here's a registration. Here's a registration. So I've got 4 or 5 places on this landing page that will drive people to a registration. When they click registration, it's going to take them to a registered page, and it says a passionate team, a great event, and here's where they register. They're going to put in their name, they're going to put in what dealership they work with, and an email to reach them. They're going to click submit. And here's the team. These are the people that are speaking with me. So I've got myself, I've got Joe Marcoux, I've got Joe Iribarren, I've got Stacy Raskey, and I've got Laura Rondon, right? And all of these folks have their own specific thing that they're going to talk about. And I've got links to get each person, to their LinkedIn, right? Now here's the agenda, what we're going to focus on, and that gives people enough information to consider registering, right? I want a lot of calls to action to get people to do to jump into the funnel, right? So now we've got that. Let me move this down, right? I don't know if you guys are seeing that or not, the way I'm moving that, but I've also got a contact page. Now, a lot of landing pages would have skipped this part, but I thought it would be important to have a contact page. And that contact page allows people to just say, hey, I got a question. Like before I sign up for this, what am I signing up for? Are there any costs? Are there any, ask your questions. And so I put that in there. I wanted to make sure that there was an avenue for people to reach out. And then again, these are the different brands that are bringing something to the roundtable. All right. And so that basically is the net, right? So I talk to people about how do I use social media as a net, right? Well, here's what I do. I take this homepage, right? And I take all of those different graphics that you've seen, right? Each of those profile pictures, the videos that I've made. There was a shout out on a podcast, right? So that's an audio that we have. And then, all those profile pictures from all the different experts and stuff, right? And I just regurgitate a lot of those. And you can see in my screen share, I've got Zoho Social. And then I've also got this hero post that I use, these different tools. And so I take Zoho Social and Zero Post and I schedule a bunch of posts out, right? And remember, with your social media, if you think you've seen your own message too much, if you're sick of your message, that's good news. You just need to add it a couple more times, right? I've heard this from multiple digital marketers that I consider to be successful. I mean, I take a look at Grant Cardone and the amount of content he floods into my PC, right? I bought a book from the guy and it just keeps coming. And here's the deal. Do I think it's too much? Yeah, it actually is too much. But do I know Grant Cardone's name? Do I know what his message is? Do I know what his mission is? Do I know what he's selling to people? I do. So it has worked, right? So many times earlier in my career, I didn't want to bother people or harass people or annoy people. And it's not annoying. How many times do you go through your inbox and just, shift, arrow down button, ding, 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 ding. Select a bunch of emails and hit delete, right? You do that, right? Everyone else does that too. Don't worry about putting your message out too much. Worry about not putting it out enough and then missing that one person that would have gotten the most value from your message. And so I take all of these graphics and I have a folder, right? I have a folder in my PC that says images, images. So I have a folder for powersportroundtable.com. In that folder, I have ones called images. And so what I do is I go to Zoho Social and I use my other tool, Hero Post, and I just set up a bunch of scheduled posts using those images. So, introducing Laura Rondon, featured speaker for social media, register now at this link. Boom. That's it. That's the post. Here's a picture of Joe Marcoux, introducing Joe Marcoux, featured speaker for sales in the Power Sports Roundtable. Click here to register. Boom, right? And I schedule all those out a couple hours apart from each other. I schedule those to be recurring posts every 2 days or every day up into the event, right? Now, when people register, here is the important part. Where does it go? Where does it go? So I use a tool called Groundhog. Now, I'm going to be super transparent with you, and I'm taking you right to the back end of my website, right? Whether there's something in there that's sensitive or not, I thought it would be fair to show you how Groundhog works. So Groundhog is a tool that I plug into the back of my website. It's a CRM. It builds contacts and tags and all kinds of cool things as a CRM, right? What is a CRM, right? Customer Resource Manager, Contact Resource Manager. I've heard it described different ways as an acronym, but a CRM allows you to track users or people that you want to communicate with. And by adding this to the back of my WordPress site, everything I do is inside my site, which I really enjoy. So in this case, I wanted to make a funnel, right? So I made a funnel, and in that funnel, it'll come up here in just a sec. You got the spinning wheel of death, right? As those funnels come up, here's the one for Roundtable. Let's go ahead and open that up. And here we can see different actions that are going to take place in the funnel. So they signed up for the webinar, right? So boom, they sign up for the webinar and they use a link to do that, right? And then they get an email confirmation. That email confirmation is basically going to look like this. And I'll show you this one, and then the rest of them, I'll probably just talk you through the process so you understand what's happening. So a funnel kind of automates all this stuff, right? So here we see one of the emails that I would have sent out to someone that registered. It says, Power Sports Roundtable, support the sport. Hey, Joe, right? Thanks for registering for the Power Sports Roundtable. And it links them back to the originating site, right? Thanks for signing up for the Power Sport Roundtable webinar. Here are some things that you should be prepared for beforehand, right? A notepad, a pen, an open mind, and maybe a thick skin, right? Because we're going to talk about things that dealers, it may be a paradigm shift for dealers to think about, right? And I said, please note, this webinar may not happen again, so mark it down in your calendar and make sure to be on time. Boom. And then it sends the reminder out, right? And so there's that. Now, the funnel sets up, okay. So I'll go ahead and close that. So they sign up for the webinar, they get the confirmation, right? Then they apply a tag. The tag that I applied is Roundtable. So that way I know how many people are set up to join the Roundtable. I said, I wait 2 days before. So I wait 2 days before, and it sends a reminder. Now, this webinar is going to happen tomorrow, right? So you can see that it says it's already done. Like, so I've got these exclamation warnings here that say, I've got date timers with dates that are in the past. Well, yeah, because I'm showing you the funnel as it's already working, right? So wait till 2 days before. So yesterday, people got a reminder about the webinar. So here we go. It says, here's the timer. And then they got the day 2 reminder. And this is where that email is that gives them the reminder. And this says, bring a notepad, a pen, and a sense of humor or something, right? I didn't say thick skin again. I changed that bottom bullet out each time, right? So then wait till 1 day before. Now, this is happening. It's already been sent out today, right? That's why we have this. So it's already been sent out today. It went out at 9 a.m. There was another reminder that said the webinar is tomorrow. Don't forget a notepad, a pen, and a cup of coffee, right? Don't fall asleep in the webinar. And then this was the email that was sent out for that. Okay. The day of reminder. The day of is like, man, today's the day. We're going to have this webinar. So you'll see that this one hasn't happened yet. And just for completion sake, let's say that I want to see this day of reminder, right? Send the day one reminder, send the email, the webinar's tomorrow, day of reminder, sends that out, right? And then send the CTA to join the webinar. So this is webinar starts in 30 minutes. So the day of reminder is this, the call to action to join. And this is where this email is going to get sent to everybody. So we sent one to confirm that you want to come to the webinar. We sent one with a 2-day reminder. We sent a 1-day reminder, and then we send a 1-day, a 30-minute reminder, right? And it says, you're just in time. The webinar is going to start in 30 minutes. Join the call. This is a link that was put in that goes to my Zoom webinar, right? That Zoom webinar is actually being held in the Power Sports Roundtable website. So I know that this sounds complicated when I lay it out this way and I say, hey, these are the steps, bam, 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 right? But as I'm building this funnel, as I go through the process of building the funnel, like let's say I got to this building the funnel, but I didn't have the page built yet for the Zoom webinar. This is kind of like my checklist, right? As a digital marketer, this becomes my checklist to go, I got to build the webinar link. It's no big deal. I just go over and I build the webinar link, and then I come back to the funnel and I put it into the button, right? So join the call. This would be the link to join the actual webinar. I'm going to go ahead and close this. Okay. And then it says, wait to see if they watched. So if they joined the webinar, right? If they clicked on that link, it's going to say that they joined the webinar. So if they join the webinar, it's then going to send a, hey, did you enjoy the webinar? It's going to send them a survey. Did you find value in the webinar? And it's going to try and keep that communication going and building that relationship with people. Now, if you're a real person, if you're a real shaking hands, face-to-face kind of person, if you're in the hybrid speaker trainer coach network, chances are you are you're a person. You want to have a relationship, like a real face-to-face, eye-to-eye, voice-to-voice relationship with people. This is setting the steps to have that. I don't want you to think that all this automation adds ice to your relationship. That's not how this is intended. So they're going to get another message. Hey, did you enjoy the webinar? Did you find value in it? We encourage you to send us some feedback. Now, when you get that feedback back, that's what you're going to, you're going to answer that in person. If I have 100 people attend this webinar and 10 of them send me feedback, and there's 10 people that I can reach out to, right, directly, have a phone call with, schedule a Zoom call, or just answer their email, manually answer the email. If I got 10%, kind of saturation on that, that's actually pretty good, don't you think? If I have a training package that I'm selling that is worth $10,000 and 10 people show interest, that's $100,000 from doing a webinar, right? So don't think that all this automation that I'm showing you takes the feeling out of having a coaching client. All of this contact is really just, it's setting the stage for a good relationship. And then if need be, we can send a replay link and stuff like that. Now, I can cancel the funnel at any point during the funnel. So if I decide that I want to have a replay link, I can do a replay link and send the replay out. If I decide that, hey, this was a one-shot deal and I don't want to do the replay, well, then I can say I don't want to do the replay. Now let's jump back over to the Power Sport Roundtable real quick. In fact, I'm going to stop the screen share and I'm going to open this up in another screen, because I need to go into the back end of that website and I don't want to show my credentials to get into my own site. I think that would be kind of silly. And pardon me. Pardon me, I had to sneeze. Oh, the love of presenting live, right? I had to sneeze. So, one of the things I wanted to show you is how I set up that Zoom meeting to happen. That Zoom webinar is actually going to happen inside the PowerSport Roundtable website. And showing you guys how that happens or how that works to me is pretty stinking important. Here's why. Um, if you have a Zoom webinar, that's great. You've got a Zoom webinar. If you have a Zoom webinar that you can integrate into your WordPress website, when you promote links from that webinar, you actually absorb the branding from your site rather than Zoom's branding, which I think is really, really cool. That's a nice thing that you can do. Let's see, PowerSport Academy, PowerSport Roundtable. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and log into that. And so my next screen share is going to show you the back end of the PowerSport Roundtable website and an integration that I put in to be able to host that webinar, 5-hour webinar, right through the back end of this WordPress website. Now it's still a Zoom meeting. It's still a Zoom, property, still a Zoom thing, but it's happening through the back end of the PowerSport Roundtable. So let me go back to my screen share and I will pull this up for you guys. And this will come right up in the back end of the PowerSport Roundtable website. And so I prefer to use, okay, so could I have put Groundhog right into this website and done everything through the PowerSport Roundtable? Absolutely. But I wanted to leverage Mañana No Mas as the marketing source for the PowerSport Roundtable. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. The PowerSport Roundtable is the webinar. The webinar is a product or is a service that is kind of a subsidiary of Mañana No Mas, if that makes sense. So I wanted to make the communication come through the Mañana No Mas portal, which is why I use that for the Groundhog and for sending the reminders and all that stuff out. I know that that sounds confusing. You will have your own strategies. Okay, so I don't want to talk over people and their marketing strategies. But for me, I wanted the marketing to come through Mañana No Mas, and the product that Mañana No Mas is marketing is the PowerSport Roundtable webinar. Okay, but now when that webinar happens, I want it to go through the PowerSport Roundtable. So what I did is, if you look here, it says Zoom Meeting. Zoom Meeting is a thing that I've integrated into the back of my WordPress site. And if I wanted to show you, what the meetings are, pardon me, I've got the PowerSport Roundtable right here, right? So here's going to happen December 9th, 8:45 a.m. is where it's going to go live with our 5 experts. We're going to do kind of a little camaraderie kind of thing, a little panel conversation, and then we're going to go into highlighted people as part of that webinar. Now, I'm going to go ahead and view this for you so that you can see this is what people are going to see when they come to it, right? So they're going to go in and they are going to clock in, and the times are a little bit different here because of the time zones. You'll see it's on Atlantic time instead of uh, Pacific Coast time. We'll go ahead and we'll fix the time zones through the Zoom portal. But this is what people are going to see. Power Sports Roundtable. This is it. A community gathering of experts. Blah 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 blah. When we go live with the webinar, they'll be able to join the meeting, or they can join using the Zoom application. They can join using the web browser, or I see this. Attendees don't see the start meeting, but because it's me and it's my meeting, they see start meeting. And then of course I can end the meeting once I've started the meeting, and I can run it all right through my website, which is really cool. This is the link that is powered through the funnel that I just shown you guys earlier in the webinar. And so by being able to link all these things together, we're able to keep things really moving forward. And I hope that you are seeing how cool this is. So I can build the webinar idea. Let me stop the screen share. There we go. Now you can see me. I build the webinar idea, right? I've got 5 people. We schedule the webinar, right? Now, the webinar tools through Zoom are not that expensive. I can host up to 100 people in the webinar, and pardon me, I think a webinar add-on for Zoom was something like $40 a month. So if I do a webinar once a month and can put 20 to 50 people into a webinar, well, you can host up to 100, right? Up to 100 people at $40 a month. So if I were to put 20, 40, 60, 80, or 100 people into a webinar just once a month, if I can convert 5 to 10 of those into a $10,000 training package, right? Now, what are the chances that someone's going to sign up for a $10,000 training package through a webinar? Well, it's better than if you don't have a webinar, right? But what it does is it opens up an avenue of communication for feedback and for relationship building to close on that $10,000 training. Does that make sense? I hope that it does. If I have a website, no webinar, no outbound communication, no relationship building, no avenue to see me speak or to train or to see my abilities come through, if I don't have any of those tools in place, what are the chances I'm going to close a $10,000 training package? Not very good. If I take the time to build an event, invite people to the event, have multiple email communication with them about the event before the event, then get the chance to present to them as me, present, speak, right? Do what, hybrid speaker trainers and coaches, right? If you're a speaker trainer and coach, you want to present, you want to share yourself, you want to have, kind of that flair of how you communicate. I love when a camera does that. You want to display that as much as you can, right? And so you build that into your webinar, and then you offer them the ability to give you feedback based on what they saw. Now, if you know that you knocked it out of your park during your webinar and things went well, you're going to get good feedback. If you had a technical problem and the webinar had a glitch, well, now you can send a message out to people, say, hey, sorry about our technical problem and our glitch. The cool thing is I usually present live. That's not an issue live. We're still getting up to speed virtually, right? Imagine you open up the conversation and you address the problem right to them, and then you invite feedback from that. There are so many ways that you can take this webinar idea and move it in the direction of success for your program. So I just wanted to, I saw this opportunity to use this webinar tool to jump out, make something live for people on Facebook, and see how the hybrid speaker trainer coach network could add value to more and more people. If you are seeing this on the Facebook page, I implore you to share it with other groups, share it with other speaker trainer coaches, share it with anybody that you can. I have been building learning and membership websites with these types of tools for a while now. And I've gotten really, really good at helping people take what their live curriculum is and niche it down and figure out what can you share virtually, what can you share online, and then what are the premium elements that you're going to save for an in-person training? What are the premium elements, that are going to make someone want to do a workshop with you in person, right? And as our world begins to open back up again, and as we figure out how we go back to doing business and shaking hands with people and being voice to voice in real time in the room, as we get back to that, you will have built a foundation of customers ready to have you at that capacity if you follow what I'm telling you to do in the Hybrid Speaker Trainer Coach Network. Again, if you are seeing this and you've got other people in your circles that are not seeing this, share it with them. This will also be posted up on my YouTube page under Mañana No Mas. So when you see that link, share it. When you see the link in the Mañana No Mas website, share it. When you just share. I'm not doing this. I'm not getting paid to make this webinar. But when you take the time to share it and help my message propagate to the masses, there is the opportunity that work could come my way. And I certainly do appreciate that. Folks, I say it all the time. I love you. You're in my prayers. People think that's corny, but here it is. We have all gotten through what some would say is a really difficult time. And here we are. We're 9-10 months into the pandemic. And we have, if you've gotten this far, you've figured out how to get this far. You were 100% successful on beating this thing to this date. And we've got to figure out, how are we going to be successful? How are we going to find avenues? How are we going to find opportunities? I said from the very beginning, January and February, I said, whenever there's obstacles, there's opportunities. How will we find and leverage the opportunities? And I'm just reaching out to you now through one of these tools. And hopefully you found some value in how I shared my time with you today. I will see you guys later. And thanks for attending or watching this webinar on building the webinar funnel that you need. Building the webinar funnel. Find success. Bye-bye.